Oh, no, we're being recorded.
It's the culture we live in, my friend. It's fantastic. Once again, we're being recorded. Hey, this is Mark and Matt with me. And once again, we are ready for yet another Baseball Biz on Deck. And this week, we want to start out in celebrating as July is unveiling itself. And you know what? The start of July brings a lot of things, Matt, when I think of it. The first one is it's my father's birthday. Happy birthday, Dad, July 1st. And then I think, of course, after that, I think, Princess Di. Princess Di's birthday is July 1st. But then there's yeah.
I didn't know.
Princess Di's birthday is July 1st. So you put that right in line with, oh my goodness, Canada. I'm getting ready to break out that Lee Greenwood song, about Canada, God bless Canada. Because it's Canada Day. Oh my gosh. I've been waiting for 4th of July to come up here shortly thereafter. But right now it is Canada Day. It's time to get out the grill, go out, play ball, and have fun with the family. And what's going on with the Germain family today?
We're just honestly, my wife's a teacher and school just finished literally today. So like for her, it's like the first Zen day. I think she had set up a little jungle under the deck on the back porch, and she was basically hiding there, just recuperating from the year that's been, and well deserved with the work that they do. So kids are the same way. I think my daughter is actually out refereeing a soccer game right now. And my other one has a soccer game tomorrow during Canada Day. So we're going to be busy with that. But basically, it's barbecue, relaxing, fire pit, s'mores, things like that. Just basically chilling with the family. And then if the weather holds up, we'll see some fireworks. So that's always a great time.
Fireworks are always – and Canada, well, there's a lot with Canada and the culture across all the provinces to celebrate. You've got some things right now, as far as in the sports world, that are just popping out. I mean, some things you said, well, will the Canadian team actually make it, into FIFA? And of course they did. And as of the other day, they won once again, putting them in the Sweet 16, if you will, of FIFA. That was quite an achievement.
Yeah, it's honestly, I never thought I would see it, Mark. I think the sport of football really hasn't been huge in Canada, historically, but you could see it coming over the last 10, 12 years. And a lot of that has been, with some investment, but the women's team actually being so much at the forefront. Martine Saint-Clair is one of the most famous female soccer players ever in the world, and she elevated Canada's female team up to second overall, I think, in the world. They won championships, they won all kinds of things. And that brought the sport in general to the forefront of Canadians' minds. And then eventually, the boys picked it up from there, because before, what used to happen is everybody had links to somebody. There was Owen Hargraves, for example, who had a grandmother that was from England. So he went and played for England instead of Canada because he didn't want to be the best player on a low down team, essentially. But now that's changed, and now they are actually able to, because of the MLS and a whole bunch of other leagues that are elevating Canadian players, they're competitive in other leagues and are bringing that to the national team. By the way, is led by an American, and he's the coach who came in and actually helped the team start believing in itself. And so it's an example of cooperation between the two, between a coach that has the firm belief in them and guides them into fearlessness, basically. And you can see that on the field. They're playing above their experience level, basically. And we see that in a lot of sports, right? Even in baseball. If you can get a young team to believe in itself, sky's the limit.
Well, that's encouraging. I mean, to see all this coming to be. And I mean, you've seen this long enough to know that soccer, football, whatever you wish to call it, has been, like you said, it has just grown in popularity and the talent as well. I know, when I was growing up, it was something that some of the kids at the Y played, the YMCA, but baseball was still the king. And it's amazing how much soccer has come into its own. I mean, even here in Tampa, we have a women's team, and across the water over St. Pete, we've got a men's team, the Rowdies, for part of the Rays organization too. which is done quite well. So I'm glad to see those things happening. And when you look at some of the otherwise, oh, I know. Let's talk about as far as Canadian impact. We're going to get to the Blue Jays here in a minute, but right now I want to take a look also at the Stanley Cup this year. What's it? The Carolina
Yes.
Hurricanes. Yay, Carolina Hurricanes. I wanted to see Tampa Bay win it. Let's face it. I know you had some other ones in line, but that wasn't it. But if you look at the number of folks on the NHL roster, the Carolina Hurricanes, 10 of the players are from Canada. And I thought that is impressive. It says a lot about where top quality is being found and brought into the program.
Yeah, and the funny part is I can remember watching the Stanley Cup playoffs and the Canadians were playing the Hurricanes and the crowd was chanting USA, USA, and that because the Carolina Hurricanes were winning. And I
Right.
was thinking, so you're cheering on the stars on the Montreal Canadiens roster, which are much more high up the rankings basically than any American on the Carolina team, right? Which is ironic. So they're cheering the Canadians on.
Oh,
Imagine it shows a bit of fan ignorance
oh
sometimes,
yeah.
right?
Oh,
Okay, what are you really cheering for here?
well, and it's interesting too when you look across World Baseball Classic each year and people who come to play for their country and some who do choose not to as well. I mean, I always look forward to seeing, well, I thought, well, Freddie Freeman, maybe he would be playing and maybe he wouldn't, depending on what the
Right.
Dodgers are telling him. And then Vlad Guerrero Jr., who also he goes and it's been the face with the Dominican Republic, I believe. Well, but he could have just as
Mhm.
easily be there for Canada, and maybe he will in the future. So where we think we would place some of these people in our own mindset, if we're not finely attuned, like some of those folks at that particular hockey game, you may not realize who you're supporting. So, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Geez, my
I
knees, brother.
can also remember talking about the Rays and how they have like international days. So they'll have like an appreciation day for all their Greek fans, all their Cuban fans, all their Canadian fans. And so I'm curious, haven't looked, but I think the last time they had poutine served at the
Yeah.
Trop. Like things like that. They're pretty fun to have. I think the Beaver Tail is another one that we do in Canada that gets spread around a little bit. And I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but essentially it's like a piece of dough deep fried twice and rolled in sugar and whatever else, right? So depending on what toppings you put on it, sometimes it's Nutella and bananas, and sometimes it's
Ooh.
cinnamon and sugar and all kinds of things. But this thing is like maybe the size of two plates, basically,
Hmm.
and it sits pretty heavy, but it's easy to eat. It's a little bit like not as soft as a Krispy Kreme, but close, right? Somewhere between a donut and that, right?
Okay, I've got to ask you. I just discovered today because I've been looking, time and time again, periodically to see if I can find a Tim Hortons near me. And today I discovered there is one in Florida, and it's only 1 hour away from my house. So it is now a destination. It's would I find a beaver tail there?
No, not in Timmy's, not yet. Anyway, they might eventually put them in the Tim Hortons. Actually, you know what? That would not be a bad idea for them to buy them. I know there's mergings of some Canadian companies sometimes, and they kind of get put together. But if you look at how many Tim Hortons there are worldwide, I think there's about 600 of them in the United
Yeah.
States overall.
I think I
So
saw
that's
number
not too bad.
641, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you're
And
going to find most of them up and around like Ohio and Michigan and such, closer to the border. But I can tell you that I thought, well, if there's only one in Florida, probably it'd be in Dunedin where the Blue Jays. It's actually in Bradenton, but yeah, it's anyway. I digress, but it is fun, and the national foods that come along with some of these, and those associated with certain teams.
you want to
Uh,
hear a good one about Tim Hortons though, Mark? When
please,
when we went to the Middle East for after 9/11, and I was going in Dubai, we had a base there and in Qatar or in Bahrain as well. But we had a actual Tim Hortons store established there so that they could serve Canadian troops. Like that's how embedded it is in it. And when we would depart, like a port, you would have like a room stocked right up to the ceiling with Tim Hortons coffee all the way up to the top. Like that was just, a must have basically when you were going around. And so you weren't running out of Timmy's at any point. And the ship that I was on for a while, the Preserver, it had a server from Tim Hortons on board that would actually serve coffee for a short
Jeez.
period of time. So when you talk about a company being tied to Canada, like
Oh,
absolutely, Tim Hortons is pretty, and now so Dunkin Donuts is making an attempt to come back into Canada because they were ousted by Tim Hortons way back then and Starbucks. And we have another company called Second Cup, which isn't as big, but they're still around. But the Dunkin Donuts is apparently wanting to open about 400 stores across Canada. So I don't know, they're trying, but I can personally remember Dunkin Donuts, and it was basically a watered down version of Tim Hortons in terms
yeah.
of the taste. Okay, they great donuts, better donuts than Tim Hortons. I will tip my cap to them on that.
Wow.
The powdered ones with the chocolate inside, the chocolate cream, my favorite. But that's where I used to hang out after work when I was a kid, was at Dunkin' Donuts. And then suddenly they all disappeared, and all you could find anywhere in Canada was Tim Hortons. And it happened very fast. I'd say in the course of
Oh,
4 or 5 years.
wow. 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 Well, I am glad to see I'm going to have one here close by, man, because like I said, that's one thing, Matt, I have missed with my travels to Canada or up in the northeast of this country. So we'll see how that goes. Looking a little more if we're going to celebrate Canada, one of the things I wanted to mention too is Alli Schroder. This woman is an amazing baseball player. And she comes into a unique category that I see one having played for the international team for Canada in the Women's Baseball Classic, which people you'll be able to see you'll be actually be able to see her and the Canadian team in Rockford, Illinois here, I think July 22nd through the 26th. Now, what's really cool about her is she's been on teams that won the bronze a couple times. She's an outstanding athlete. She's also in the Women's Pro Baseball League. So she's going to be doing that in the following month, and that's going to be in Springfield, Illinois. But the first thing when I heard about Alli was a couple of years ago. She came into a very unique category because she is a firefighter as well.
Mhm.
A lot of the fires that were going up, and she was doing a lot of the fighting of that then. There are a couple of women, actually a few women, I can think of who have done many of the same thing. One of the first guests and a friend of mine, Tamara Holmes. She lives out in California. She is actually a captain of the fire department there, but she was with the U.S. team and played there. Veronica Alvarez, who's also now, I believe, with the A's organization and does some coaching. She was also a firefighter. Valerie Perez. And Valerie, not only did she play nationally for the USA, she is now a Savannah Banana. And don't you know that after she became Savannah Banana, they started a team called the Firefighters. So
Mhm.
I love it. I mean, absolutely. They got a firefighter, woman firefighter on the team, and an outstanding athlete and ball player. So it's kind of cool. But Alli Schroder, she definitely checked off all the marks as far as to me that's a hero.
Yeah, she works extremely hard, and if you've ever seen pictures of her doing the firefighting, her forearms are huge,
Yeah.
and you just know that the strength that they have in terms of swinging a bat, doing whatever it is they do with baseball, comes from that. I remember pictures when I was first watching hockey of Bobby Hall,
Mm.
who used to go home on the farms in Saskatchewan, and you could see him using a pitchfork, and his forearms would just be massive, and they'd just be hauling hay all summer long. Same thing with Gordie Howe and a whole bunch of other people. But when you're active and you're using your arms like that, Maurice Richard used to work in steel factories. He could pick up like whole things of steel with his hands and just carry them over like very easily. You get that grip or that strength that kind of gets you to be more capable in whatever sport you're doing after that. So I firmly believe that when you look at her and a bunch of other players that are coming through that women's league, there is going to be a point in time, Mark, I would bet within the next 10 years where a woman will be playing baseball in Major League Baseball within the next 10 years.
Yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't happen at all. I mean, it just seems inevitable. And
Mhm.
sometimes I point back to all the days I may have mentioned this before on the show, the Indianapolis Clowns in the Negro Leagues. And if you take them as a team, when you bring the Negro Leagues and Major League Baseball together, anybody that was on that team that would now be part of Major League Baseball. And the story, if you've heard me say this before, I apologize. But Hank Aaron was on the team with the Clowns. And when he left, they brought in Tony Stone. Tony Stone was a woman, and she was an excellent ball player. After her, there were a couple of other women who came in, including, was it maybe Peanut Johnson, and another name, later lady's name escapes me at the moment. But the thing is, would we consider them Major League Baseball players? I don't know, simply because it was the Clowns, or they more of a touring team that weren't part of it. But the important part is sustainability. So if today, if someone like Alli or one of the other of these great women playing the game are out there on a major league team sometime in the next 10 years, look forward to seeing them not be just the first woman, but being an athlete, who's able to show their stuff, and who does not have a roadblock in front of them saying no women allowed.
I think it'll be a Shohei Ohtani type of deal where it'll be somebody that is so talented that you just can't hold them back. Like they're just beyond what the women's league can maintain. So if you're dominating at that level, then you're going to want to take that next step and challenge yourself, right? And I feel like that's going to happen. Whether it's somebody that's hitting the high 90s as a pitcher, I could see a second baseman possibly, even somebody in the outfield. There's positions in baseball where the performance of the players on teams in those positions is honestly oftentimes subpar,
Mm.
right? So where a woman could probably elevate it if you get the right woman, involved. And so why wouldn't you at that
Yeah.
point? If your team's struggling to find a good second baseman and you find one in the women's league that's better than what you have, you're going to make that call and you're going to, decide. I honestly, Mark, the first one who does it probably will appreciate the marketing that goes along with it. And that'll probably be a calculation in terms of pulling the trigger on it. But imagine being the first owner that does it, right? You're
Yeah.
you're cutting red tape at that point. There's the first front office, the first everything, right? Like you're literally crossing into a boundary that nobody else. So how will you be perceived by all the other baseball fans? How many women are going to come to your team now because you've done that? What are you attracting? What are you keeping out? Like it'll be a huge momentous shift. But I think the opportunities far outweigh the fear of having. It's not like in basketball, for instance, you're getting physical, you're in close quarters. There's soccer, the same thing. Like there's a more, not saying that a lot of them couldn't handle it, I'm just saying that there's a more intense physicality to it. Whereas now, baseball, the way it's run,
Hmm.
you're not running people at second base anymore. You're not challenging the catcher anymore at the plate. Like you're literally pretty much hands off of each other all the time. The only time where I could see it being a problem is the first time that a woman gets hit by a pitch and how her teammates react. Right? That'll be the first, like, oh, what do they what do they want to do at that point? So
Yeah, I
um
would hope that would be the same. One, that didn't happen, and two, that they get out there and they support their person. Period. Right now, Kelsey Whitmore is a person of great interest. She's actually played pro ball. I know she was out in California doing some of that. She's held other positions, and Guys, I'm going to suggest if you haven't looked at Kelsey Whitmore, please go online. Kelsie Whitmore. You can probably figure it out. Whitmore. If you haven't seen anything about this young woman, you're missing out a lot. She's a woman of great character. She's a woman who's had challenges and she openly talks about them. And she talks a lot about her strength coming from the young girls that she meets, and they're wanting to participate with the game too. So check her out. She is the type of woman that I would hope that we would see. And Alli is definitely has that as well. That kind of courage a person has to carry with them to take on the role as a firefighter. So kudos to Alli. And geez, let's see. Like I said, she'll be July 22nd through 26th, and that's going to be going on in Rockford, Illinois. You can go to the IWBC was it? Yeah, IWBC.com website for more on that. Let's pivot to looking at what's happening as far as the Blue Jays. It was interesting the other day seeing them play the Mets, and lo and behold, the return of Bo Bichette and the
Mhm.
crowd, the Canadian crowd, they endorsed him with such applause as he came to bat, and he kind of had his head down. And if you looked out to the field, you would see Vladdy Jr. taking his hat and kind of tugging at it, not taking it off, just kind of tugging it. Say it's a signal to Bo. Bo, go ahead, do tip of the hat, and then he picked up on it, tipped his hat to the crowd, and it was a great moment. And I know it has to be difficult for Bo, having not being part of that team anymore. And God goodness, man, it's got to be hard being part of the Mets too.
It's not turning out like Roy Halladay's debut with the Phillies went, right? And
No.
that's the other thing I would say is the Blue Jays fans have always been loyal to people that have crossed over and gone to other teams, not like the Red Sox. The Red Sox tend to say, "Hey, if you go across the line, you're burnt at the stake."
That's it. That's it.
So the Blue Jays fans are a lot more thankful for what you did while you were with them. Both, I remember watching him at the Olympic Stadium when he was just a kid, not even in majors yet, alongside Vladdy, and he was playing shortstop, and Vladdy was at third. And you thought that duo could do their whole career together, basically looking at them. And it's too bad that that didn't come to fruition. There's a lot of reasons for that. Economics is one of them.
Yeah.
The other one is the health concerns that Bo has in various different ways. And the position that he plays, he's not exactly the best defensively. When you look at the Mets, their problem is that they're a horrific defensive team. Like
Oh
not just
Lord.
bad, like horrific. They tried to elevate it with Marcus Semien and others, but it's just a sad state of affairs. Like they need a Ron Washington type person in there to clean that up and get them changing things. I suggested a long time ago when they first acquired him, they should put Juan Soto at first base.
Yeah.
That's where he belongs, especially when they let Pete Alonso go. Like, put him at first. That's where he belongs. Yeah, he'll cry, kick, scream, he'll pull Rafael Devers. I don't care. It's where he belongs. He can't field the outfield.
No.
So, do what you need to do to make the team better. It's your team. Like, make those hard decisions. You're Steve Cohen. You're signing the checks. Put him at first base. But back to Bo, we just heard today, Mark, Kawhi Leonard is coming back to Toronto. They
Hmm.
made a huge trade. They sent Grady Dick over with another player, two first round picks. They're swapping another rounder, and there's two second round picks going to the Clippers. And Kawhi Leonard, who won the first championship with the Raptors, is coming back. Could Bo Bichette do the same? Nothing says that the Mets can't pick up the phone and say, hey, listen, we think we might have made a mistake. Bo wants to go back. We're willing to take on 5 million per year off his deal. Give us this package of prospects and we'll make it so. And I think the Blue Jays would be much better off for it. How he would fit into the roster now and with the changes they've made, etc., I have no idea if they have room for him and if they would be willing to move some pieces around to make that happen. But I feel like the Blue Jays are not the same team without him.
Mhm.
They don't have that steady bat that can support and grind out the opposing pitchers the same way that he could. They're a little bit better with Alejandro Kirk being back and healthy, But I think you can see on their lineup that they're looking for consistency and being able to be, peskier than they have been otherwise this year.
I think it'll be a good thing for both of them. I certainly believe it. I mean, the team and him, and he brings a certain energy there. What right now, if you're looking in the AL East, I think the Blue Jays are about 10 and a half games back, and that puts them at third. So if you look, let's see, but if I take a look at, what do you want to see, Mark? The MLB wildcard standings, they are how many games out?
Mhm.
Let's see here.
They're 10, they're 2.5 games out of a wild
Right,
card spot,
right,
but they're 10 games behind a race.
correct.
So that's what do you bet on? Now, having said that, last year they were in a much tougher spot, I think. No, sorry, not last year, the year before. And then they flipped it around in this course of less than a year. So I don't think they're a bad team. I think they're much closer to being a great team than the Red Sox.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know what they do this year, Mark. I really don't.
It's been interesting. I mean, it's been looking at looking at the Rays and the AL East and the Yankees. Good Lord, where they lost 5 or 6 in a row now. Oh my gosh. I mean, it has just been dumbfounding to me to see how they quickly erode. Well, let's see though. I think they haven't had Judge, I believe, for a bit. I think he's been out, and
Right.
that's been part of it. But
Yes.
still, man, it's like they just.
Yeah.
I
They-
mean, put a blow pop in everybody's mouth out there, and maybe they'll figure it out because Jazz Chisholm hasn't yet, evidently. I mean, there's things that need to be done with that team, and I don't know what it is. I'm glad they're not my team, and but the Rays have just been showing so much sunshine, brother. I mean, the 3 home runs from Junior in one game, and his continuously doing so well at bat, game after game after game. Yandy doing his business. Aranda seemed to get back into the groove. He seemed like he was falling out a little while, a few weeks back, but looks like he's getting right in there. My gosh, when you start out with those 3 men, Yandy, Aranda, and Junior, it is impressive what those folks have been able to put together.
That's the consistency I'm talking about with the Blue Jays that they're missing, is that they don't have that third guy
Yeah.
that's able to, you know. So the Rays could use another one actually, like that could bring them because I still don't think like you talk about the Dodgers, the Braves, a couple of other the top teams. I don't think they're to that level yet.
Yeah.
They're just the most consistent team because they're willing to play small ball. They know who they are. They're asking like one thing I've noticed is everybody's bought in, whether it's Cedric Mullins bunting, whether it's, how many bunts do you think Cedric Mullins attempted with the Orioles last year?
Oh.
Compared to what he's done with the Rays.
And yeah,
So
I
they,
mean, what he's done with the Rays with that, and then on top of that, he's starting to put home runs on top of it too. He's mixing it up. He isn't just one thing, and that means a lot.
because you're not a one-track pony, you're not trying to you're having fun playing the game. Like in Sandlot, you do a little bit of everything, squeeze plays, this, that, the other thing. Like you're making the game fun again and interactive. And I feel like the Rays have done a great job of keeping the games interesting. Even, the cold stretches that they go through, they're still staying true to themselves.
Yeah.
They're never really too far down on themselves. So the interesting part will be, I started hearing rumors this week about where Tariq Skubal is going to get traded. And everybody's talking Yankees, Dodgers, the usual suspects. So I'm like, do the Rays have enough to deal for him? Yeah. Would they deal that much for him? I don't know. If I think back to what they traded for Nelson Cruz, and I think back to what there's a track record of them saying, you know what, we'll throw caution to the air once in a while. Is this another one of those years that they do something like that? I don't know.
Well, it depends. Like you and I talked about this before, and I truly believe the new owners have something to prove during a time while they're trying to build consensus and support behind the request for funds for the new stadium. And if there was ever a time to spend the money, this is the time to do it. If you think you're going to get to the World Series again, if it's going to take that extra little boost, yeah, they may be more open to that than Stu would have if it was just him this year. And that's not anything against Stu. It's just saying that it's a unique circumstances with new owners, and not that they're going to be blowing money all over the place. Otherwise, they wouldn't have Neander there. So anyway, looking at that, I do want to come back and talk a little bit more about the Blue Jays and the All-Star game too, Matt, because it's coming up, and I've never been completely surprised when I see the first round of all the voting for the All-Star ballots and seeing so many Blue Jays, popping up there as well. Some of it because of great talent, and some of it because they're a Blue Jay. What I mean by that, I love it. I love watching the opening of a Blue Jays game, and the network starts out. I don't know if they said the same intro or not, but they show all these beautiful vistas all across Canada, our national team. And then this line, it takes them and they land and light there in Toronto. But by that point, you understand that this is your country's team. I mean, this is our face as a Canadian is what it looks like to win. And guess what? Let's support them. So that by that, all the provinces, all the folks, are going to go that All-Star ballot, and they're going to vote for their guys. And I think that's wonderful, but it also makes it kind of curious when you look across, compare the who's coming up. And okay, just for fun. Now, National Pride, I was looking at Gallup poll just came out recently. And for Canada, it said, I think 84% of Canadians said they were extremely proud or proud to be a Canadian. And that's actually not that it was less, but I think maybe like a few years back ago, it may have been 76%. So that pride has continued to grow. And if you look over the last few years, as far as voting for the All-Stars, this, I think, is the first year where every one of the positions has had a Blue Jay right there in the first or second spot for the ballot. And I said, some folks are very proud about being Canadian, and they're going to support their team. And I said, yay, yay, yay.
Population wise, it would be like as if you had only one team in California and
Yeah.
everybody in California was cheering for that team. So it gives them just so much more leverage when it comes to voting for All-Star players. I joked before we started talking about letting AI decide who is in the All-Star game. And I don't know what the algorithm you would ask it to use in order to get to decisions, but All-Star games are kind of a funny thing to have in the middle of the season to me. To
Yeah.
me, the football gets it right in that it should encompass everything that you do for the entire season. The reason that they have it in the middle of the season is to give players a break because you're playing so many games. Supposedly, that's why they do it in the middle of the summer. Whether or not that's the best time to have it, I don't know. Like maybe in the middle of the dog days of summer would be better. Maybe before the September call-ups and all that stuff. I don't know, but I think it wouldn't be bad for them to modify the All-Star game, to be honest, Mark. Like there's some things about it. I think I've told you this idea before where I think Hall of Fame inductees should be giving their speeches at the All-Star game, and they should
Yes.
be, that should happen there where there's more people, there's more exposure, there's more, imagine being in the crowd at that All-Star game when it comes around and these All-Stars are being inducted and they're giving their speeches and everybody there has to listen to it. How many people go to the Cooperstown to listen to them? Not
No.
40,000, you know?
No.
Like so it would be way better. And then you get the prospects that are there for the prospects games would be rubbing shoulders with them, would be listening, would be paying attention to the lessons, the stories, everything that these people are saying and seeing the importance in some of their heroes, basically. I think that would be so much more beneficial to the entire sport, to the sentimentality of it. And it would also behoove the Hall of Fame voters to do it while people are still alive so
Amen.
that they can give those speeches, right? And not make the process so encumbered that you can't really, get the most out of the stars that have dedicated their lives to the sport.
Indeed. Indeed. I like that because we talk more and more about trying to find, the marketing niche, what's going to bring this in. And we need to look more. I wonder, we mentioned Caitlin Clark earlier, and all the controversy that's going on around her right now. I'm wondering, as much as anything, is that also a great marketing tool for the WNBA? And I don't wish all the controversy that's circling around her right now, but I do invite the what I want to say attention, the attention that's coming to the game and to a great player. And there's got to be a way of finding that with a positive spin and doing more of that with us, meaning with MLB. I don't know what that is, but we need to find it. And I think steps like you're talking about with it, bringing Cooperstown to the All-Star game would make it be a big part of that.
Absolutely. Yep. I think I'm watching the World Cup right now, and France is winning 3-0 against Sweden. And
Ooh,
I've been wondering, all the marketing things that go along with FIFA and all the things that work and the things that don't work, the things that go for it, the things that go against it. But I think that the great thing about All-Star games is that they're a little bit like the World Cup, where everybody is sort of neutral. Everybody is on board just to see the stars and be a part of it and be a part of the love of the game. That's one thing that baseball got right when they did the Field of Dreams game is they brought the sentimentality of the sport, and it didn't matter there were no fences out there. If the ball goes into the field, who cares? You know, just let it roll in and then, throw another one onto the field and we'll use that one. Yeah. I think society as a whole needs those things now. Like we're searching for them. That's why nostalgia is such a big part of what happened during COVID is it just brought everybody to stand still and look around and say, what did I really love about, what's happened so far in the world, right? And when we do that with a sport and we really reflect on what it is that brings us in, like you were mentioning before in a previous show of having your whole family there with you at a game,
yeah.
that is special. You're seeing it in the World Cup. They have the same thing. Whole families, whole communities at the games together. They've saved and they've scrounged and they've traveled and they go there and they experience something that they'll remember their entire lives. That is, you can't put a price on it because it's a a binding feeling of a special moment that is so rare and fleeting that you can't help but focus on it. And so I hope baseball is able to capitalize on a lot of these ideas. And the good thing is, Mark, they're open to ideas. They're open
Yeah.
to change. They're open to, that's one thing I tip my hat to baseball is that they're actually making changes and they're actually, willing to dive in, even with the ABS system, like in the speeding up the games, things like that. Like I like some of the things that they're doing. So that's why I'm suggesting so many of them because I think you need to keep that momentum going in the right areas and get them to think of things without, stepping backwards into the trophies a piece of metal time frame.
Let me ask you something. Do you watch the MLB network at all?
I do. Yeah.
Because what you were saying about as far as what the changes that have happened and that have helped the game and the ABS system, et cetera. Have you seen the commercial spot that MLB is talking about? Hey, we've heard you, we've listened to you. You said make the game faster. Hey, the pitch clock is there. You've asked for this and that. And we know what you're really looking for. And that's putting a cap on salaries. So let's get involved. And here's our website to talk about it more.
They're right. They're right. The majority of fans want a salary cap. They understand that the Dodgers are winning because they outspend everybody. That's why they're winning. There's nothing brilliant about what the Dodgers do. You give me that money, Mark, I will take them to the World Series than they've been so far. I'm sorry, but there's nothing brilliant. Like I can't congratulate the Dodgers for winning World Series when they literally go and purchase them. So my thing is always to be objective about it. When I see a team like the Washington Nationals, who did spend some money, but it wasn't a ridiculous amount. The Nationals had a special mix of players and had worked really hard to gather them at the right time, went out and got the extra pieces, didn't spend an obscene amount of money, and they won a championship with it. That to me is impressive. when the Dodgers do it after spending billions of dollars year after year after year after year to get to those special quote unquote moments, nothing impresses me about that. I think it's just a realization that the sport has gone too far.
Yeah.
And I think back way back to when the NHL first started and there were just 6 teams. Imagine if one of those owners had been like a multi-billionaire and was out spending all the other ones and saying, "Oh, I'll throw caution to the air. I'll just grab all the stars, put them on my team." What would it have done if the same team won year after 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 year? It would have killed the league. It never
Yeah.
would have existed. The NHL would have ended, and that would have been it. You could argue the same thing with the women's baseball, right? If one team had dominated the entire time and nobody else ever won, would it have been interesting to anyone? They would have said basically it's like the Globetrotters, right? Where they
Hmm.
go out, they win, and the other team loses. And at that point, you're more of a I don't want to call it a joke, but you're facilitating a capitalist endeavor that is not really worthwhile paying for,
Yeah.
right? The majority of the time. You'll see some neat tricks, you'll see some neat things, but it's not really memorable. When you're sitting there, I'll relate it back to the Dodgers, okay? So take it way back to the 80s, and Kirk Gibson is on one leg, right? They haven't outspent everybody by billions of dollars, and he hits a home run on one leg.
Yeah.
That is a spectacular moment that you can throw pride behind and say, wow, like we put him in that moment. The manager had the faith in Kirk Gibson going at the plate. It was a baseball call. You knew he had it in him. You weren't going to sit him. You weren't going to pull him out of the game. You let him take that at bat. And, he wasn't getting paid 10 times more than every other player in the league.
No. No.
It's just, to me, that's the soul of baseball. When you see a team sort of overachieve in big moments, and it happened last year in the playoffs where players were playing hurt, people knew they were hurt, and you guys saw them grinding it out.
Yep.
George Springer was one that was grinding through it and just kind of trying to find any way to help his team win. That gathers a special moment and respect, right? And I find like when you're winning with that respect, you're building moments that MLB can't really put a price on. It's drama that is infectious and
Hmm.
attracts people like constantly. And you're like, Mike Brasso was a great moment for the Rays.
Oh
Was he getting
yeah.
paid millions? That's a moment that we talked about it with the Red Sox blogger. He was like, that was a great moment. Everybody remembers that moment.
Yep.
Nobody is going to forget it. And it wasn't because they overpaid for a player. He was literally making league minimum,
Yeah.
So I hope that they do get a cap in, and I hope they do get a floor in. I hope both of those things come in at the same time. All I want is the brilliance of the front offices and the team aspect of each individual franchise to be evaluated one against another. So then it's a real fight. I'm
Yeah.
not using a 500-pound gorilla to beat up on a baby. No, like I'm literally letting two fighters of the same weight, right, go up against each other and may the best person win. That's that's what it should be, and that's what every other sport is. Every other sport has figured that out,
Well,
and I don't understand the greed of baseball.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm trying to figure though the evolution of this spot. We could say yes, it would serve them, but there's bound to be teams that would be resistant to that message. Those that are want to spend and have it. Now, the other thing is, it's certainly going to be offensive to the Players Association. I would think they're never looking for a cap. Personally, I think there should be a cap just because it gets stupid. Either that or you tie Steve Cohen down and said you can't go ahead and defer payments for 30 years into the future. I'm sorry. That's the insanity of it. The other part of me thought, well, let's see the Major League Baseball network. It's their network, so I guess they put on whatever they want. But political climate, should you have to give equal time to an opposing viewpoint on an ad that has maybe some political spin, if you will, to it on baseball? So say, should the MLBPA have to be able to come on and give their statement about the love of the game and what should be done? I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch as
I,
this CBA emerges.
I think the political aspect of it should be how do we open up the books to
Yeah.
make it the 50 that they state? So who oversees that? Is it going to be somebody that the MLB side trust only, or somebody that the MLBPA, fully supports? And how corruptible are they in terms of working the numbers, right? What are you including in that 50-50? Are you including the gambling? Are you including the parking concessions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Or is it strictly for certain things like the ticket of prices and TV deals? Like there's things that they're going to have to work out that are very cumbersome, I guess is the best way to
Oh
put it.
yeah.
But I think we've all known that this was coming. Players should be realistic to realize that they don't have any leverage left. They really don't. Like they're at the point right now where I think if MLB doesn't get what they want from the players, they wouldn't cancel the next season. They
No.
would simply hire minor leaguers and it would do away with whoever is in, that basically start with scabs, if you want to call it that, and continue on until the players start kind of limping back into the league. And they would have to eventually.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not wrong, before the NHL had a union, this happened essentially, where they had players walking in and out of the league because they were fighting with what was then called the WHL. I think it had Winnipeg, it had
Right.
Edmonton, it had Hartford, a whole bunch of other teams. And there were players that were jumping back and forth on and off the bandwagon because there was a tug of war, a little bit like Beta VHS did for a while and for tapes. So, but I don't know that baseball players could survive very long without their income next year if MLB went that way. And I think it would be a huge loss to the sport. I'm hoping they find a way to come to a resolution that actually works for everyone. And I do think if you're telling the players, like I think, if I'm not wrong, they also want to reduce games for the regular season, but they want to increase games for the playoffs. They want a whole bunch of things to be added as well. So I'm curious to see, like we've said before, if I'm the players, I say, sure, okay, we'll bring in the salary cap, the floor, and the ceiling, but I want to get the free agency a year earlier.
Yeah.
That's what you do. And especially for the pitchers, because they get injured so young and
Yeah.
so fast that to me, that would be one of the keys that I would put into the deal.
Yeah, because let's face it. I mean, a pitcher is being paid for what they've already done. By that, I mean, if they've had a fantastic record and you're hoping you get more out of them, by the time to where they can actually have serious arbitration or free agency, you're going to be paying them for that. The time that they were doing all those first 5, 6, 7 years, they're not getting paid for what they're performing. And the potential of them not to ever see the money, the value of what they've given to that team, it's never been right. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot to be said and done with that. I hope they figure it out. And the last thing I hope is that, or I would, last thing I want to say, see is a stoppage, from either side on this, because the game is just starting to get some legs back. I think you talked recently about seeing an increase in attendance and viewership. And that's the sort of thing will stop real quick if MLB and the Players Association don't find some common ground that's going to serve the fans.
I'll add one more thing, Mark. In the last strike, which hit the fans hard, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, okay? But the living standard in terms of what you could afford was way higher back then than what it is today.
Yeah.
So if you're going to step out right now in today's day and age where the price of everything has gone through the roof, people are scared about their jobs. They know AI and robots are coming around the corner, and you're going to start nickel and diming everybody about salary caps, this, that, and the other thing. You're going to lose the league. You're not just going
Yeah.
to lose fans. You're going to kill yourself basically at the stake if you end up doing a strike or a lockout this time. I firmly believe that it will kill the league. We're seeing soccer right now taking off like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It'll replace it outright. You won't see baseball will be. Remember that what's that show about the reporter who ends up being the commissioner of the league because it's gotten to be so meaningless to people. Brock,
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Geez.
Brockmeyer.
Brockmeyer. Yeah.
Yes.
Brockmeyer.
So that's what it'll become. It'll go down that road because it'll become such a fringe sport that people just won't buy into it anymore. And especially when they're already paying too many of the stadium's costs and the rest of it. Like at some point, you know, fans have to be realistic about their lives
Jeez.
and decide, what's too perverse. Yeah.
Well, it's going to get weird, I tell you that. And you brought up Brockmeyer. It reminds me of an episode where they had a Pokemon Go type game where the person would come to the game and there would be players on the mound that were on their little handsets. And guess what? It's kind of doing that now. I went to the Marlins game. Hey, I was able to get a Marlins Pokemon Go hat. And there's a special event coming up with the Rays here. Let's end on a positive note. A couple of little things. One, Junior Caminero, AL Player of the Week, as well he should be. And let's see, tonight we're starting a game. It's actually Tuesday. We're selling this as if it's Wednesday, but it's Tuesday night. And
he's going to join the home run derby as well in the All-Star game.
Oh, he is. I've got mixed feelings about it, but it's going to be exciting with him there. There's no doubt about it. Well, that's great. That's good to hear. So Junior, oh, wow. And then Yandy, who looked like maybe a little shoulder trouble a couple of days ago. I hear he's back in the lineup tonight, so that's good news. And there's things are moving positive for us, and not so good for the Yankees. And we elevate.
A couple of other ones. Jake Fraley's starting a rehab in AAA, so he's close to coming back. Caden Bodine got promoted to AA, and that's his second promotion in a month. And he was tearing the cover off the ball in A+. Like it just wasn't even fair. So they didn't wait long. They got him up to AA. So honestly, the way he's hitting, if he keeps this up, I'm not saying that it'll be this year, but you can't discount him now for next year in terms of making raise, which is pretty significant based on where they got him. So just to recap, they got the 33rd overall pick, which they'll be making soon, right? They got Michael Fort, who's one of their two top pitchers in AAA right now, who's knocking on the door. He might come up sometime. I predict probably in August. And then they have Caden Bodine now in AA, and they also have Slater DeBrun, who hasn't started yet in the rookies, but when they made the deal, a lot of people were saying he was the best player of them all in that deal. So the Rays really, did well in that trade. I think they're going to benefit a lot of years.
Good things, all good things to hear, my friend. So tomorrow, Canada Day, sounds like you got some fun planned. I'm glad to hear that. I hope everybody else there enjoys and celebrates. I wish you all the best. And let's see. I'm going to ask you to say, we always say, look, and thank you all for coming and visiting with us today, and look forward to seeing you real soon. But I want to hear you say that in French. Can you do that?
Merci beaucoup de nous avoir rejoints aujourd'hui. On espère de vous voir encore bientôt.
Bientôt. All right, brother. Thank you very much for joining us, folks. We'll talk with you again, just like Matt said. Have a great day.
Bong, bong, bong.
If you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like, and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on YouTube at iHeartApple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. That's Matt at matgermain.bskysocial, or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bskysocial and Baseball Biz on Deck with Facebook.